Welcome, everyone. This is From Process Builder to Lightning Flow. We're going to start off. Thank you, man. You guys got quiet fast. I like that. That must mean you can hear me. So thank you, first off, to our sponsors, platinum sponsors. Without these guys, we can't do events like this. So thank you to those folks. You're being passed or handed out right now a piece of paper. We are going to use that piece of paper in just a minute, but while those are being handed out, I thought I'd introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Terry Miller. Most people know me as Terry's Tidbits. You will find me all over. Home Team Consulting is my company. I used to say I was an independent consultant for a number of years because I was for about 13 years, and a year or so ago I added another person, so I can't technically say I'm independent now. But I've been doing Salesforce now for 15 or so years and love the product. And I was just announced as an MVP this year, so very surprised, honored by that. I do hold 15 certifications on the platform, a system architect as well as the, what's the other one? Application architect. I am not a CTA yet. I don't know if I'm going to do that. That's just like that next level up, and it's hard, and I'm not sure that I'm ready. But maybe someday I'll add that to my list. I do lead the Des Moines, Iowa user group. We welcome everybody, so if you don't join our user group, please do. You're welcome to come to our user group. We have a great time in Des Moines with that. I also speak at a variety of different user groups as well, so if you are a user group leader looking for somebody to do a presentation, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to do that. Most people know me for my study group leading. I lead a variety of study groups helping people get their certifications. We've got one person here I know that's in my current study group. I'll probably be leading one this fall for Platform App Builder, so anybody interested in the Platform App Builder certification, follow me. We'll make some announcements on that, and perhaps you can join the Platform App Builder certification. I had the next one up there as college professor because it sounded so cool to say professor, but really what it is I have been working quite a bit with the Des Moines Area Community College, helping them get Salesforce started in the Des Moines area. So I put together a lot of curriculum for them and also have been doing some teaching. So I do some training, I do blogging. You'll find my blog site, terrystidbits.com, and then vlogging on youtube.terrystidbits.com, youtube.com/terrystidbits. Mentor a lot of people. And prior to all of this stuff with Salesforce, I was in the corporate America world, just like most of you probably, leading all kinds of applications, enterprise application systems, solutions. That's where Salesforce was actually dropped on my lap as well, probably like a lot of you accidental admins. I have been known to talk to stuffed animals. Einstein is my favorite. You might find a YouTube video out there with me talking to Einstein. Einstein's really a smart guy, so if you don't talk to Einstein, I'm sorry, you really should. He's got all kinds of great thoughts for you. So with that, we are going to work on a project together, and that's where your little piece of paper comes in. Hopefully you have a pencil or something you can draw with. Our project, I'm going to give you 90 seconds to do, and it's a real simple project. All I need you to do is to draw a house. Don't worry if you're not a great artist. You can go ahead and start drawing your house. The timer's on the screen. Do the best house you can. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be fancy. We're not going to judge you. At least I'm not. But draw a house for me. And I'm going to just kind of eavesdrop as you do, because I can. Nice. Very good, very good. Got 1 minute left to do this exercise. All kinds of time. Now I need you to stop for just a second. I need your attention. We've got 45 seconds. Our project's halfway over, and I decided I really needed to change our project up a bit. And I need your house to really be it needs to be a boat. So if we don't have the time to just stop and start over. You can't like flip the page. You just have to start making it a boat. So 40 seconds here remaining. You're pretty good. You're a much better artist than I am. I like that. 20 seconds. And I'm sorry, but one more interruption if I can. We've got 15 seconds left. This time it's not my fault, I promise. You know those guys that are always upstairs in those top floors? They think they own everything and they can tell us all what we need to do. They need to have this house boat thing that we're doing, our project. They want it to also be able to navigate on land. So 15 seconds, make a couple more adjustments so this project will work on land as well. All right, and our time is up, pencils down. You know, a lot of times when we are working on projects, things like this happen, where in the middle of the project, things are going super well, and all of a sudden this bomb kind of drops into the room, and we have to make these adjustments to our project. I would love to see what you've done on your drawing. If you want to tweet that out at hashtag the conference and at Mention Me, I'd love to see your pictures. Maybe we can have a whole new thing that everybody will see all of your drawings with real quick. But so often our projects happen this way. And one of the things that I want to be careful not to go too far with, but Salesforce kind of does this to us. In fact, they do it to us 3 times every year. They send out these new updates. You familiar with those? Well, a few years ago, this was back before the pandemic, I think it was 4 years ago, I was working at the admin meadows at the automation booth. They have those little kiosks if you've ever been at Dreamforce. And my cohort that was supposed to be with me didn't show up. So I was there with all these people trying to come up and get help. And I was doing pretty good. I thought I was doing pretty good. But evidently this gal from Salesforce didn't think I was doing so good. So she came up and she helped me. Said, hey, I'm from Salesforce. She introduced herself. I didn't know who she was. But she said that she was the product owner of Flow. This is who she is, Shannon Hill. I had no idea, but she kind of took over my kiosk. Because it was supposed to be mine, I moved the mouse around a little bit on the computer to make it look like I was supposed to be there, but she kind of took over, and she was awesome. She said some things, though, that kind of stuck in my mind, and one of the things that she said was, you know that process builder tool and those ugly emails that we get? There is nothing we can do to fix that. Shannon Hill, almost word for word. What we really need people to do, she said, was start using Flow. Now keep in mind, that was 4 years ago. We're now at the point where Salesforce is saying, hey, Process Builder and Workflow rules going away. You have to now start using Flow. So this has been on the roadmap, I think, for a while, it sounds like. But Shannon was awesome, great insight. And one of the things that when she said that kind of stuck in my mind was, oh crap, I know a lot of admins back in Des Moines who they have no idea what Flow even is yet. And here we are saying Process Builder has to go away and we're supposed to start using Flow. And I thought, man, I'm going to have to do something to help my group learn how to use Flow. And so if you are in kind of that position of, hey, the Flow is brand new, raise your hand for me. You really haven't spent a lot of time in Flow. This is a session for you. Okay? If you are an advanced person or even an intermediate person, raise your hand for me with Flow. You're feeling pretty comfortable with it? All right, your guys' job is to keep me honest, and your job is also to answer all of the questions at the end of the session. All right, so that's how this is going to work today. All right, so we're going to take a look at a couple processes here. So I'm going to switch to glasses. I'm also going to switch my Wi-Fi over so that we actually have a decent connection. And we're going to jump into Salesforce. All right, so you should see on the screen. Perfect, you do. And Just navigate a few things out of my way. We're going to spend time on this account record. And on this account record, we have a CSAT rating of satisfied. We have a customer priority there of medium. One of the automations that we have in Process Builder for this particular example is that whenever that satisfaction rating changes to unsatisfied, we're going to bump that customer priority up to high. Another automation that we're going to look at today has to do with this address field. We have a little checkbox up here that says update all contact addresses when we save the record. So if I make a change to that address, it will also then come over and make adjustments to our addresses for our contacts as well. Now, there's a variety of other things that happen when I change the status. It's going to send an email. It's also going to put a chatter message on the page. So we've got those 4 automations that we're going to work on today. We're going to take a look at it in Process Builder, and we're going to build it out live, crossing our fingers that it works in Flow. All right, are you ready for that? Let's do it. Let's make sure the process works first. So let's go ahead and change this to a unsatisfied customer. And I noticed that I had my state spelled wrong here. It is not Minneapolis, it is Texas. And I'm going to check that box and hit save. And if all goes well, you'll see the priority did jump to high. And if I look at my addresses, you'll see there toward the top of the screen that it is now Texas, and it has corrected those values for us. So that's perfect. That's what Process Builder did. If we take a look at it, it's simply right here. And this is our active process. Now, I'm going to slide down, and you'll see there's the CSAT rating where it equals unsatisfied, and then our 3 different items that we're updating. The next one down is our address, where we update our contact, and then come back and uncheck that checkbox off of the account. Okay, everybody good? You're with me? Pretty straightforward, pretty simple process. We're going to rebuild this now in Flow. And as we go along, we're going to show you just how similar Process Builder and Flow can be. All right, this is where it gets kind of fun. So we got our account object up here at the top. I'm going to go into a new tab and just simply drop into Flow. And when you're creating a new flow, just like Process Builder, you have a blue button over on Process Builder. You'd click to say new. Now they interrupt you and say, are you sure? But you still had a blue button there, and that got you started into Process Builder. Now, this is the same process on Flow. It's not blue. The writing letters are blue, but it's a white button. And you click into that, and you get started building your flow. Now, if you're brand new, screen flows, don't do it yet. Don't, it's too hard. You're not ready, okay? Screen flows are amazing, they're awesome. But if you're just getting started, if you're brand new at this, record trigger flows is the same basic process, same basic concept as Process Builder, okay? So start with a record trigger flow if you're brand new. Get into screen flows as soon as you can because they really are cool. But go to Andy's session if you want to learn screen flows because Andy's awesome. Andy's sitting over here too. If you're not following Andy, by the way, on social media, you should be. He's too cool. I'll talk more about Andy later because he's a good guy. All right, record trigger flow. I'm going to simply click on that and I'm going to say create. First thing it asks is what's the object that we're going to work with? Well, that's no different than what it did over here in Process Builder. If I look at Process Builder and I click on that account object, I had to answer that same question. What object am I working with? I also have to know, am I going to do this when a record is created or updated? That is exactly the same process that we have over here. So we're on the account object. I'm simply going to start typing the account in. You'll notice as I start typing, it starts to filter that list. That's really cool. I like that feature. And then you're configuring the flow. Now we've got a few different options here. On Process Builder, we could do it on create. We could also do it on create updated. Now we can do updates only. We can also do when it's deleted. Now I'm not sure that we advocate deleting records in Salesforce very often, but it's nice to know that it's there if you need it. So in our case, we are doing this when a record is created and updated. Now we get to something that's a little bit different, this entry criteria, and there's all kinds of conversation around, do you do all of your processes in one flow, kind of the same way that we would do it in Process Builder, or do you do a separate flow for each transaction? I have a theory. I'm not going to use that theory today, because today we're rebuilding Process Builder, and in Process Builder we did it all in one. So we're going to do it all in one in this example today. I think there's some good use cases, though, for that filter. For now, if you're learning, just leave it as none. Make your life a little bit easier. Now I have fast field updates in this related, and I think, wow, that Process Builder never told me that. I thought I hit the save button and it just saved the record. That's all that it does, right? Wrong. There's all kinds of things that happen when you hit that save button. And I've got a blog post here on my site that if you're interested in fully understanding this thing called order of execution, jump out there and you can see this and play around with what it does. So we have system validation things. Those are things that, is it the right type of field that I'm keying something into? Is it a required field at the database? Do I need to have some of that stuff there? Record trigger flow before. That's the second thing that's going to happen when you hit that save button. Apex before triggers system and user validation, duplicate roles fire, and then the record saves to the database. At this point, you get an ID for that record. Now that you've got your ID, it jumps back up here to the after side. This is before. These are your fast updates. This is after for everything else. After your Apex after triggers, assignment rules, workflow rules, Process Builder. There's your Process Builder right there. It ran after before. Kind of, sort of. That didn't make a lot of sense. It runs after before. It used to make sense in my head. Escalation and entitlement. Record trigger flows on the after is almost at the very end of the process. And I like that because it lets me kind of clean house at the very end of everything that's happening. Roll-up summary calculations, there's a bunch of other things that I don't have on this slide, but then it finally comes over here and the entire record then is committed. At that point, we're actually back in control of our screen. So, when I come back here to Process Builder, and I'm thinking about this CSTAT rating, and I have this customer priority field that I want to update. I'm simply setting customer priority to high. Quiz time for you. Should I be using a fast update or a before record trigger flow or an after record trigger flow in order to update that customer priority field that's on the account record?
After. Before.
Yeah, right. It is the before. And so here's the rule. Anytime you are updating a record and or updating a field on the record that triggered the flow, you're always going to do it before. Almost. 95% of the time, you're going to do it that way. If it's anything else, anything else, doesn't matter, anything else, you're going to be in an after. Okay? Updating the record, or updating a field on the record that triggered the flow is going to be a before. Anything else will be an after. So as I'm over here defining my first flow, I need to switch this over to a fast field update and click done. Now my little blue bar that I had in Process Builder that said account, it's now a little bit bigger guy on the canvas. And it's already now predefined for us. And one of the things that I like that Salesforce has done is they automatically bring us into what's called the auto layout. Before we used to have to choose, do you want auto layout or do you want the big wide open canvas? And the admins, when I talk to them, they say, Terry, every time I go into Flow, I go into this big wide open space and I have no idea what to do. Well, they kind of help us out, I think, with auto layout right up there at the top. Because it gives us something a little bit more visual that's easier to understand. And I can simply click on that plus sign because it kind of feels natural to hit that plus sign. I'm going to add something to my flow. And it gives me then an immediate list of here's the things that we can do. Let these lists guide you as you're learning flow, because it's super, super helpful. And I'm thinking, all right, I need to update the customer priority. And I'm looking at those elements that are in the list, and sure enough, they've got one right here, update triggered record, right at the top of the page. So I'm just simply going to select that, and I'm going to give it a name, because in Process Builder, I had to give my items a name over there too, if you remember. I have to do the same thing here. It's really not a trick question. It's just a label. So we're going to call this update. Actually, I'm going to call it update account. And I'm doing this without my glasses, so if I spell something wrong, that's why. That's the excuse I'm going to use. All right, so next section down. How do we find the records to update? And we've got 3 options. Use the account record that triggered the flow. That sounds kind of good, doesn't it? We're trying to update that same record. Use IDs and all field values from a record or record collection. Well, so far, you haven't learned anything about records or record collections from me yet today, so we're going to ignore that one. If you're interested in record and record collections, I am working on a series right now called Fundamentally Flow that will help you understand terms like that. You also have specified conditions to identify records and set visibilities. We all like that first one. It sounds the easiest, doesn't it? So let's stick with that. Now I have a filter criteria that I can use. It's the record that triggered the flow. I don't have any additional filter criteria that I need here, so I'm simply going to go down and say what it is that I want to do. And I'm going to look for that customer priority field. And again, you'll notice that I just start typing. I've seen a lot of people go in and just search through that list, and if you do that, you start to get a bunch of stuff that is a little bit confusing. So if you know that you're just going to update a field, just start typing it, and it'll show up for you. So customer priority, and we're simply going to set that to high. You'll notice that all my pick list values show up there for me. Okay. When Flow first came out, if you jumped into Flow, it didn't do that before. So it's been that this way for quite a long time, but that's super nice that that's there. And now I've got my update record done. Okay. That is the same thing that we just had over here in Process Builder. Next one we have is a chatter post. And on our chatter post, we're putting that particular message. Chatter post, is that going to go in a before, or is it going to go into an after? It's going to go in the after. Things that triggered the flow, the record, if it were updating fields that in the record triggered the flow, it's always in the before, almost. Otherwise, it's in the after. All right, so I've got my flow here, and this is a before, so I've got to kind of keep track of the fact that now I need to do an after trigger flow. And I'm going to simply come in and start a new flow. It's going to be a record trigger flow again. My object is the account, just like before, created or updated, and it's now going to be the actions and related records. And I'll click done. I'm going to click on that little plus sign, and I need to create a chatter post, and I'm looking through my list, and I don't see chatter. And I get a little bit confused because Terry said, navigate through the list, you might find it there. If you don't find it there, it's kind of a little bit of a trick. Just look under actions. Just kind of use that as your default behavior. If you don't see it, look in actions. And actions can be a little bit of a confusing screen because it has this filtering process over here. I never use it. I just go up to the action and I'm thinking, I need to do a chatter post. I wonder if it just sits up here somewhere. And so I'll just start typing chatter, and all of a sudden, yeah, chatter lives right up there, and I can simply select it. All right, once again, we have a label. And we have values here that we need to plug in. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and just come over and grab a portion of this message. And I'm going to do something that I'm going to tell you not to do, because there is a better way, and I'm going to show it to you in just a second. But for right now, I'm just simply going to paste our chatter message right into that box that says message. And now I need to tell it what record do I want this chatter post to be associated with. Now this is one place where Process Builder, I think, was a little bit cool in that it already knew the context, it knew the records that we were working with, so I didn't have to tell it this particular thing. And in Flow, because Flow is a much broader, more powerful tool, it gives us the ability to associate things to other records. So it doesn't assume that we need to work with the record that we're triggering here. So we need to tell it inside this action. And so I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, that's the account ID. So I'm going to type in account. And the only thing that comes up for me is this thing called $record. And it says account right underneath it. I want you to remember this. $record is your friend. Everybody say, $record is my friend. No. $record is your friend. And it's your friend because it represents the record that triggered the flow. So that's where you want to be. If we're going to look to find that account ID, we need to jump into $record because it's our friend. And now if I start typing account ID, I will find that actual record or the actual field. Any questions on just that simple piece right there? I'm going to click done, and now I've got my chatter post there. Cool? Excellent. The next one on our list. Okay, so this is creating our chatter post. It's if I.
Oh, that's one that's going to.
It's. Yeah, so when a chatter post is a separate record and it needs to be associated to something else. So in this case, we want to associate that chatter record to our account that we're working with so that when we look at that account, we see that message. So that's why we wanted that $record account ID in that list. Good question. Now the next one on our list is to notify the manager, the owner's manager. We're going to send them an email. And you'll notice that when we're using an email alert called account unsatisfied manager _alert. So let's jump back over to our process. We're going to click on the plus sign again, and I'm going to look to see, hey, right there happens to be email alert. I love that they just kind of half read my mind sometimes. Email alert right there. I can simply click into that and come up here, and in my case, I only have one email alert. So it shows up nice and simple for me, but it's right there. And email alerts, even though you kind of associate them to workflow rules, they're still going to be available to us. So that's a good thing. Our email alerts are still there, so we simply select that. And now again, we have to give it a label. And then associate a record ID to it. We need to, again, look at $record, our friend, and find that account ID. All right, and now we have created, in essence, the first piece. We've dealt with everything related to that customer service CSAT changes, and we just built it in Flow. Pretty simple? Not too bad? Okay. Andy's sitting right next to you, so if you need some help, he'll coach you. All right, very good. Let's take a look at the next one that we had then, and that was the address. When we changed that address, we wanted to, in Process Builder, we jump over to contacts and we update all of the contacts when that checkbox was flagged as true. The second thing we did is we go back to that account record and we uncheck the box so the next time somebody goes in and saves or updates that account record, it doesn't auto update those addresses again unnecessarily. All right, so back to flow. Let me start by asking you this. Am I going to need to build a before or an after record trigger flow? After record trigger flow. Good, you guys are learning. Everybody passed that one. Awesome. Okay. And to save a little bit of time, I've already got this one somewhat started. And so I'm going to use that instead of what we just created. Version 2 should have our CStat all set up. And you'll notice that what I've done is I've scrolled down the page a little bit, and I've already put in our decision for the update contact address. That is simply the one that is looking to see, is my checkbox flagged as true? Okay. We already talked about decision, so I didn't want to take the time to go through a decision one more time for you. That's really all that is. We did talk about decisions, didn't we? We didn't, did we? I skipped right over that. See, there is a good reason you guys are here. And for you experts in the room that didn't catch that, God, man. All right, let's talk about decisions. We're going to back up just a step. All right, decisions. So the first thing we should have done before was check, what do we need to do with that CStat rating? Did it change? So we have our decision and I simply called it, let me get into this view, which is what it will look like if it's new. I gave it a label, and I came down here, and one of the things that's really cool with Process Builder, you have those blue diamond things, and the blue diamond things have a true and a false that come out of them, and it's super easy, and you can do all kinds of fun stuff with those. Flow gives us a lot more options than just true-false. Here we can do a variety of different things because we can combine multiple outcomes within a single decision element. So we're not limited to just simply saying true and false, but if you want an easy correlation, you can think of this as true, and then you can have this other one that normally says, I forget what it says by default. I think default outcome is what it says. I hate that word. I always change it. I just say skip. If I don't want it to go through this decision, I don't want it to process things that are true, then skip makes more sense to me. But I have the ability to hit this little plus sign here. CStat, I've got currently set up there to be unsatisfied, but what do I do if somebody chooses the CStat rating of satisfied? Or maybe it's neutral. Maybe I want to do different things in those scenarios as well. In Process Builder, I would have had to create more blue diamonds with true false for every single one of those items. In Flow, single decision element, I can put all of that definition into one element, which is really kind of cool. Let me show you real quick since this one's already built out, but we've got our unsatisfied, it's just simply a name. That's where it could have said true. If in Process Builder they had us give it names, we would have just called it true. So unsatisfied, I'm gonna click that little plus sign. It gives me a new outcome, and I could say here that this one is satisfied. And then I could say, what does satisfied mean? Satisfied means when $record my friend CStat rating equals satisfied. And then I've got my default outcome there that is simply skip. If you don't like skip, you can call it whatever you want. I don't really care. A lot of times, it could be something more meaningful to you. It might be something that you have real stuff actually happening on that end of it, and you want to give it a meaningful name. You've got the ability to name it however you like. In our use case, we're going to just skip it. And now notice what happens on my canvas. These are our original post to chatter and send the email alert. Now I've got another path there specifically for what do I want to do if it's a satisfied customer, or what do I want to do if it is something else. I've got that capability there now. Does that? Yeah, good question. So this is where we could have defined that entry criteria that you're referring to. Is that right? So your entry criteria, this is where it kind of gets into that philosophy of one flow or many flows. I don't know this for a fact, but my architectural head tells me that if I were to put a criteria here and I've got a set of records that don't meet that criteria, I'm thinking that it's going to be more efficient to skip this whole thing. So I'm kind of inclined to say it's a good idea probably to do a condition, but I think you want to think about your overall architectural. That's a much deeper conversation than what we're going to do today. Before I used to think, no, just put it all in one flow. It's simple. It makes it look exactly like Process Builder, and they drilled it in our head over and over with Process Builder. Do one, just one. Don't do many. I'd go in and I'd visit my customers, and they would have all of these out there, and I'd just be like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't help them sooner. But flow's different. Flow's a different animal, and I think that if you can prevent things from actually having to drop into the flow, it's probably a good idea. That'd be my gut. I will admit, I like seeing it all in one spot, but they've given us the new tools that allow us to see it, and it really better than what it looks like if you're inside here with everything. So my gut tells me that at some point, people are going to start landing on do multiple flows, use your entry criteria, and use the order for how you want to execute them. That's my gut. I could be completely wrong. Yeah. So the question was, if we set entry criteria, can we come back and edit it later? Yes. Yeah, you can. You can also come back in and change and modify the update and create piece of it. Yeah, good question. All right, so we kind of jumped around there a little bit. Let's jump back in. Any more questions on that decision element? Yeah.
If none is best practice, I'm curious to know what happens if the record meets two decision elements criteria. For example, you get one that's unsatisfied and another that's not.
Yeah. Yep. So the question is, what happens if I have a record that hits multiple criteria? Now our criteria in this case is pretty well defined. I'm not going to be both satisfied and unsatisfied at the same time. But there may be scenarios, you might be thinking that about this session. So it's going to flow, it's going to go in this order. So it's going to first evaluate unsatisfied, and then it's going to drop down to the next one on your list. So if it does meet multiple criteria, whatever your example is, it's going to go into whichever one it hits first. Yep. Good questions on that stuff. I love it. Any others on decisions before we run out? Yeah.
I don't know. There was something like on the design, making it more is that no, on the left side, I want you to do this, make your formulas and put them over here.
Yeah. Let's talk about that one later, because I don't want to confuse people with that out of this class. All right. So there's where our advanced people kind of got me off track. They didn't get me back on with that decision, but that's what it would look like. And then we had our post-to-chatter and our email alert. And then I came down to my next decision. My next decision simply is looking at, do I need to update my contact addresses? So update addresses, there's the checkbox that's on the account record equals true. Otherwise, we're going to skip it. All right, so let's jump back to Process Builder, just to make sure we don't miss anything here. Update addresses equals true. That part's good. And then we need to go in and update our contacts. This is our contacts object now that we're updating. It's no longer the account. And we're simply setting our mailing address equal to the billing address. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's find the right flow. So we're going to click the plus sign. And in this case, I need to update records. And I'm going to choose update records here. Update contacts. Now, these three items that we talked about early on come into play a little bit more so now. Use the account record that triggered the flow. I'm not updating accounts, am I? That one no longer applies. Use the IDs and all the fields in record and record collections. Terry has this different session on that, he said, so it's probably not that one. So we're going to skip that. Specify the conditions to identify the records and set the values independently. We like that? That sound all right? Kind of sounds like it might be the right choice, so let's choose it. And you notice when I chose that value, the bottom half of my screen changed all of a sudden. Flow's going to do that to you. Don't let that freak you out. It's because they're trying to guide you a little bit and help you make the right choices. So it simply just says, what object do we want to update then? If it's not the account object, we didn't choose that first one, what object do we want? And in our case, it's simply the contact object. Now, this is one of those spots, again, where Process Builder was very much aware where it was running, and if you said I wanted to update the related contacts, it naturally knew that it had related contacts associated. Flow being a little bit broader, a little more to it that you can have, you have to tell it which contacts you want to update. If you don't do that, you're going to update every single contact in your org. Don't do that. That'd be bad. That's bad. That's like putting pink colored things inside of loops. No pink in loops. Okay, no pink in loops. That's another conversation too. We'll do it later. All right, so our filter criteria, it is the contact object, and I want the account ID equal to my friend, $record, account ID. Now I'm going to make sure that is only going to be the records that get updated. And I've got my fields down here at the bottom where I can set their values. I'm going to quickly add some of those in. And this is going to be our, let's see, mailing city. And you'll notice just by simply typing again, it really does save you a boatload of time if you can just start typing, and it will also take the items off the list as you have selected them. Notice that. I think they did that for me so that when I taught this stuff, it would be, I'd know I got them all. So that's all there. Now that I've got my fields there, I need to set their values. So I'm going back to my friend $record, and we are looking for, in this case, city, $record. This one is country. Get myself confused here as I'm going through it. And those of you that are paying attention still, just kind of double check, make sure I got all that in there correctly. We've got city to city, country, country, postal to postal, state, state. And that looks like we're probably right, so we'll go ahead and say done. All right, so now we are updating our addresses on that contact record. The next thing we had to do was we had to go back and uncheck that box that was on the account so that the next time somebody goes into the account and it updates it, it doesn't try to update those address records. Is that going to be a before or an after? It's a trick question. So let's think about that. So naturally in our head, and Terry did say that if you're updating the record that triggered the flow, you do it in a before, right? Almost all the time, is what he said. And so this is the almost part of that. This is where we break the rule. So, and the reason we have to break the rule, we do have to do it in an after, because if I want, by the time I get over here to this decision, if I want that checkbox to be flagged so that I go down this path, I can't uncheck it in the before side, otherwise I'll never hit this path. And you'll be sitting there in your flow thinking, why isn't it working? And you're gonna, at the end of the day, finally realize it's like, oh crap, I unchecked the box before it got there. And you'll hit your head against the wall over and over and over. We all do it. And you'll be like, man, that was dumb. But, so we're gonna simply come in, we're gonna do another update record down here inside of our after. And we are gonna update that triggering record. Update account. And we're simply going to find that checkbox. I forget what I called it. Was it update? There it is, update, and we're going to set it back. Update all contacts. We're going to set it to false. And say done. Pretty simple? Yes, thank you. Good? You think you can build one? Yes. Chatter? Yeah, must have. I did, yeah, when we first built the after, we did create those. Those are actions that we went in and did. What time did I start? 9:30? Yeah, we're done. Thanks for coming, I do appreciate it. There are lots of resources for you. I did not get those up there, but no, take pictures of them. Yes, I want to see them out there. What I do want to show you just real quick though is, do jump out to terrystidbits.com. There's an entire series of this process builder stuff that talks about each element individually. There's blog posts on it as well as YouTube videos for every one of those elements. If you're still needing help, Andy and I do a Flow office hours. Jump into that. It's the second Friday every month. Andy's the smart one on the call, but come register, and we'll help you as best as we can as you start to get through this hump of moving to Flow. Thank you again. Sorry for whoever's after me if I took up your time.